Friday, August 21st, 2015. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, Israeli forces attack 14 Syrian military posts overnight following yesterday's rocket fire on northern Israel. It's a pyrotechnic display as Tel Aviv's Tel Aviv Bridge is demolished to make way for the city's ambitious new light rail project. And later on in the show, Women for Peace, a group of Israeli women, demand change and have been fasting outside the Israeli Prime Minister's house in Jerusalem for 7 weeks, calling on him to initiate a political solution to end a cycle of violence between Israelis and Palestinians. Good morning, I'm Meredith Ross. Israeli tanks, artillery cannons, and warplanes attacked 14 Syrian military posts overnight in response to a barrage of 4 rockets fired from within Syrian territory yesterday. Syrian state media says 1 person was killed and 7 injured, and that its facility suffered damage. The Israeli Defense Forces blame Syrian operatives of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad terror group for the rocket attack and said they were receiving orders and finances from Iran. Defense Minister Moshe Alon said Israel held Damascus responsible for any fire from Syrian territory. No one was hurt as the result of the rockets into Israel. And we're joined in studio this morning by Haaretz senior defense correspondent Amir Oren. Good morning, Amir.
Good morning, Meredith.
And by I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev. Good morning, Tal.
Good morning, Meredith.
Also with us, as always, is Ami Kaufman, who will be delivering the press review a little later on.
Good morning.
Good morning. So let's begin discussing this attack. What do we know about the events yesterday, Amir?
Well, we know that the Israeli Defense Forces late last night came up with many details. Obviously, they know it via intelligence channels, and this time they decided that in the propaganda war, it is more effective for them to disclose these details, which usually remain confidential.
Right. And
they named the Iranian officer in charge of the Palestine Affairs Department in the Quds Force, which is the Revolutionary Guard force under General Qassam Soleimani, and Defense Minister Ya'alon specifically named Soleimani as responsible for this attack by financing and guiding the Islamic Jihad organization, which actually fired the rockets. And this means that this is really in the Israeli-Iranian realm or the Israeli-Iranian-American realm, because the whole battle that Prime Minister Netanyahu is now waging has to do with the Iran-Vienna deal. And Israel has an interest in showing that Iran is behind whatever its proxies are doing in various fronts here in the region, but mostly vis-à-vis Israel from the Golan Heights. So the onus is on Iran. Syria, or the Syrian regime, of course, is powerless to do anything, even in its own capital. So trying to put the blame on President Assad, besieged as he is, would be laughable if it weren't serious.
I mean, seeing all the players here, it's really a complex issue, because we're saying the Israel is saying the Palestinian Jihad fired from Syria, backed by the Iranians, and Israel fired back in Syrian territory. So this is ultimately a message to the Iranians.
This is a message to the Iranians that, yes, we have a sort of a below-the-radar war, you and us, Iranians and the Israelis. However, once you conduct it from Syrian territory, remember that we can tip the scales in the Syrian civil war. Because if we hit not only military targets, but regime targets, and perhaps Bashar Assad himself, he may fall, and the entire war will go against you. So this was a shot across the bow. It was more for deterrence, for holding down the escalation. Israel didn't really try to conquer any territory or kill many people, but to make a point.
And finally, Mayor, do you think we'll be seeing more of this type of escalation, or was this an isolated incident?
Again, the Israeli Defense Forces said that this was to be expected, which means that they had indications that a similar attack was in the making. Whether or not now that an assessment will be made in Tehran, we'll see. And one should also understand that there is a battle going on in Tehran, and we'll go about it later when we talk about another Iranian angle, a battle between moderates and extremists, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Quds Force, headed by Soleimani, was against the Vienna deal. This is part of the price that Rouhani Soleimani and the other moderates are paying for the deal. They are letting Soleimani play around in the Golan Heights.
So staying with this note, some analysts claim that yesterday's exchange along Israel's northern border was just a preview of what will transpire in the region if the Iran nuclear deal gets ratified by the U.S. Congress, emboldening Tehran to use its proxies against Israel. Yesterday, Israel demanded that the International Atomic Energy Agency release the details of a so-called secret agreement between the nuclear watchdog and Tehran, following reports that the deal stipulated that Iranian officials would provide the agency with photos, videos, and soil samples from the Parchin military site, where Iran is suspected of having carried out nuclear operations in the past. Now, the report, based on a draft of the agreement handed to the Associated Press by a senior U.S. official, was denied by Iran, the IAEA, and Washington, and it sharply worded a statement. IAEA Chief Yukiya Amano said the report misrepresented the agreement. So, Tal, we'll turn to you for this. So there was a lot of controversy over this report. Can you break down what happened for us?
Well, first of all, we should say that during the 48 hours that have passed since the report was first published, there have been changes to the initial report by AP, and some very crucial details that made it so exciting, that made it so revealing, were actually deleted from the piece. So we do not know at this point what is true and what is not true, and that is one of the problems, I guess, for the administration, who is now in the midst of this very, very difficult battle on over Congress and over the lawmakers. Every report like this, every report that sheds a doubt or sheds question marks on some of the components of the agreement can backfire. So that's why we saw an immediate, very swift response by the White House expressing their confidence in the IAEA. But if we just want to break it down to this, this whole Parchin issue is actually not part of the Iran deal negotiations. This is part of separate negotiations that have been going on for years between the IAEA and Iran over what we know is known as PMD, possible military dimensions. This is a demand basically by the IAEA and the international community to get revelations and for Iran to expose several components of the suspected military activities that have been nuclear related. And Parchin is a industrialized military site that Iran has been denying access to for years to the IAEA inspectors. But a condition to the Iran deal going forward is that the IAEA concludes its investigation on the PMD, on the possible military dimensions. So in order for sanctions to be relieved, the IAEA has to let world powers know that it has resolved all of its remaining questions on the possible military dimensions. And that is why the question of inspection is so crucial. What has come up in recent weeks, not in this AP report, but even a few weeks ago in one of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee's hearing by Senator Rob Menendez, is that there is some question marks about how exactly are the inspections going to take place. And the fact is that the P5+1 themselves have not seen these side agreements between the IAEA and Iran. And that is one of the questions, one of the thorns, we might say, for lawmakers. They say we're going to vote on a deal that no one here really knows the details of. Besides, they did get an oral briefing from the head of the IAEA, Yukiya Amano, but they don't really know what's inside these agreements. But just to conclude, the Israeli demand that the IAEA publish all of the side agreements is basically very unlikely, because at the core of every agreement between the IAEA and every country it's inspecting, there is a confidentiality clause, and that is something that basically is against the nature of the IAEA itself if it were to publish these side agreements.
Well, Tal reviewed the technical details, and it is true. This is the state of play. Israel is playing with fire by focusing attention on what certain nuclear weapon capable countries have been doing, because it is also not in the likely position of having answers to what others would say. But what lies behind the description that we just heard from Tal is that there is a difference between the past and the future. Parchin and the PMD is part of the obligation of nuclear countries, parties to the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty regime, to confess regarding their past behavior. And what the Iranians have been trying to do in Parchin is clean up what they did, and actually they did not deny that they have been involved earlier, until 2003, in nuclear weapons work. But they didn't want this particular site and the exact work that was done there to be revealed to the world. So they are trying to clean up the site. And obviously the critics of the deal are focusing on that. This has no bearing on what is going to happen in the future regarding this deal and regarding what Iran is doing. And again, as mentioned earlier, there was a tug of war between moderates and extremists in Tehran. Part of the price that the moderates headed by Rouhani and Zarif had to pay to the Revolutionary Guards was to vow that no military site, including Parchin, will be entered by foreigners. This is what the Supreme Leader Khamenei also promised. So, yes, they are trying to bypass this particular detail in the deal, but the bigger picture is, are the powers, those signatories, are they going forward with a rapprochement? These are only details. Looked back at 10 years from now, either Iran is going to breach all trust, or Iran will become more moderate following the death of Khamenei, who is very old and very ill, and whoever succeeds him may change policy, much the way Raul Castro changed Cuban policy after Fidel retired, his brother. And if not, if we are going to see another conflagration, this will not be important, this particular detail. This is just another sideshow which Israeli authorities are trying to inflame in order to torpedo the deal.
If we look also at the context of this AP report, we see that in the past few weeks there have been dozens of millions of dollars invested in a campaign against the deal, but actually on the ground it's not really working, because every day we have more and more senators announcing they support the deal, and only at this point only two Democrat senators who have announced they will oppose the deal. So, but these kinds of reports is actually, we should interpret them as an attempt at political manipulation to bring up these doubts, to bring up these questions, and undermine the credibility of the deal in order to influence the lawmakers. Because we do see that the basic argument that we have heard by opponents of the deal, that this isn't a good deal and we should negotiate another deal, that's not working. It's not succeeding in convincing the senators. So I guess at a desperate time, they are looking for almost every bit of information that can undermine the credibility of the deal.
But what's interesting is, according to AP, a U.S. official leaked this document. So do you think that was an
U.S.
attempt
official is a very wide range of people can fall under that determination. A U.S. official can also be a Congress official, and people have raised speculations, and this is just a speculation, about the coincidence of the fact that Robert Menendez is the one who brought up this issue a month ago in the Senate Foreign Affairs Committees, brought up the issue of Parchin soil samples, and then a day after he announces he opposed the deal, then this document is leaked. I'm just saying.
Coincidence, huh?
Yeah,
coincidence.
You know, Maddie, there is, in intelligence, there is this term, false flag. You recruit an Arab spy saying that you represent NATO, the NATO alliance. Actually, it's Israel or another country behind it. Throughout the Iran caper, we heard about opposition organizations coming up with revelations about Iraq or Parchin or other sites. Perhaps it was a more sophisticated intelligence service which found what happened on the ground and then laundered it through such an organization. Here, too, it could be another country sophisticated enough to come up with satellite photos and signal intercepts and what have you, and then pass it on to a certain friendly congressman who then comes up to AP, and lo and behold, you have a U.S. official, or perhaps it was an American-born foreign official. Who knows?
Interesting point. Well, I don't think we will ever know that. But Todd, I want to bring this back to Israel. Obama wrote a letter recently pledging more aid to Israel amongst all of this, to talk about how that affects everything.
Well, at this point, Obama is pledging more aid again and again, but at this point, the Israeli Prime Minister is not willing even to discuss any compensation or any boost to the security aid. Just to put things also in context in that respect, Israel and the U.S. have a very, very close cooperation before the Iran deal, and it will have a very close cooperation after the Iran deal. So, but there has been speculations or maybe doubts about the way Netanyahu has been making decisions, because there's a logic that said that now would be the time for Netanyahu to negotiate some kind of compensation package in order to, because after the deal is passed, then Obama won't need to compensate Israel. Basically, he'll have his deal. But from Netanyahu's point of view, to negotiate now or to accept any security compensation for the deal would actually be admitting that the deal is okay. And that is something he cannot do as long as he's still fighting the deal in Congress.
So still a power struggle there. But unfortunately, we have run out of time. We could talk about this issue for ages. Tal Shalev and Amir Oren, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And let's now say good morning to Ami Kaufman, who joins us daily to discuss the news we've missed while scanning the headlines. Good morning, Ami.
Good morning, Meredith. We're actually going to stick with Iran and, shall I say, the rush to Iran to restore business and diplomatic ties. The Guardian is reporting, kind of exclusive report, that Britain's Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond will formally reopen the UK embassy this Sunday in Tehran, and also the Iranian embassy will be opening in London on this, at the exact same time. This is 4 years after the embassy in Tehran was closed. It was actually ransacked and by a mob of activists who were angry that Britain imposed sanctions against Iran, and also by the Revolutionary Guard, who kind of rallied the protesters to go in there and ransack the building. I think we have some footage, old footage from the 2011 showing the ransacking. I think it'll be, pretty historic pictures that we'll be seeing on Sunday, maybe with Philip Hammond raising the flag, pretty much, I guess, similar to what we saw with John Kerry doing that a week ago at Cuba. So, it'll be interesting to see. Times are changing. Off to the States, Jimmy Carter, the 39th president of the United States. Last week we learned that he was sick. He has cancer. Yesterday he came out in a press conference saying that it has spread to his brain. Had some tumors there. We have a report about it. Let's see.
The diagnosis isn't good, but Jimmy Carter is handling it with grace.
So I'm ready for anything and looking forward to a new adventure.
Carter laid it all out there, explaining doctors found a cancerous growth in his liver earlier this summer. 2 weeks ago, he had the tumor removed, but then learned the cancer had spread to 4 spots on his brain, melanoma. He feared the worst.
I just thought I had a few weeks left. But I was surprisingly at ease. I've had a wonderful life. I've had thousands of friends, and I've had an exciting and adventurous and gratifying existence.
Phone calls from the other presidents are already coming.
Former President Bush called me at one time, and then George H.W. Bush Sr. called me yesterday afternoon again. I think I appreciated that very much, and their wives were there on the telephone with them.
Obama and Biden called too, and the Clintons. Carter in good enough spirits to joke about their famously cool relationship.
Bill Clinton called, Hillary Clinton called, Secretary of State called. First time they've called me in a long time.
And you still feel you have a lot of work left to do?
Well, I do, and within the bounds of my physical and mental capability, I'll continue to do it.
Well, sad news.
Very sad news. He's got it looks like a long battle ahead of him. He's going to put most of his time to recuperating and fighting this thing.
And
less time.
Aging. I mean, he's pretty old.
He's pretty old, but he's done a lot. Won the Nobel Prize in 2002. Hopefully, he'll win this battle.
Yes, hopefully.
No rest for Greece. After that long summer of bailout talks, Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras resigned yesterday in an attempt to trigger some snap elections and return to power. Apparently, the elections will be held on September 20th. He wants to return to power after those elections stronger. He's been having some trouble passing some legislation recently. He's having some trouble in his own Syriza party, and he's been having to rely on opposition votes. And the opposition parties are saying this might not not last too much longer.
Yeah.
So he says, okay, I'm going to just have to break everything apart and just go back to get reelected. It's sort of like a new referendum.
That's a risk, though.
It's a risk, but he just basically cannot govern right now, apparently. And the people in Europe, the officials in Europe, are actually pleased that he's doing this because they want the whole bailout package to continue and not for Greece to fall apart again. So they want stability and they want Tsipras to be stronger. So hopefully they'll get what they want. He gets what he wants, and he'll be reelected. He said yesterday, we gained considerable ground without that meaning that we achieved what we and the Greek people wanted. Now that the difficult cycle has reached its end, I feel the deep ethical and political obligation to put to your judgment all I have done. So this is basically a really personal referendum on what Tsipras has done so far.
Well, good luck to him. And good luck to Greece in general.
Good luck to Greece in general.
A rough year. Yeah.
Back to Israel, close to home. The IDF yesterday deployed an Iron Dome battery in Ashdod, the southern port city of Ashdod, fearing attacks from Islamic Jihad over the condition of Mohammed Alan, who ended his hunger strike yesterday after the Israeli court freezed the administration detention order because of the condition that he came to. He suffered some brain damage. Now he is awake, he is eating, but a few days ago, before this whole thing happened, before he fell into a coma and got out of the coma, Islamic Jihad threatened that they would attack Israel with rockets if there was a deterioration in his condition. And now the IDF is taking that to heart and putting a battery in Ashdod. Hopefully both Mohammed Alan will be healthy and there won't be any rockets. But as we know, if he wants to leave the Barzilai hospital, where he is actually now in Ashkelon, he might be put in administrative detention once again.
Once he's deemed healthy enough to serve an administrative detention.
Exactly. So we'll have to see what happens. Staying with the Palestinian issue, a week ago we reported that the UNRWA might not open its schools because of a huge deficit of $101 million. Schools for Palestinian children in Syria, in Jordan, in Lebanon, in Gaza, and the West Bank. Now we have news that some countries, some last-minute donations came from countries, about $70 million. They came from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, United States, Britain, and Sweden, and they reduced the deficit to only $22 million, which is enough to begin the school year for about 500,000 Palestinian children.
Because they heavily rely on UNRWA for education.
Very heavily.
Is it exclusively?
I'm not sure, but I think it's probably up there with almost 100%.
80 to 90%, yeah.
Yeah.
I would guess.
So good news for Palestinian children. They'll be able to go to school. I mean, very nice. Here in Tel Aviv, where we are, the Ma'ariv Bridge, just this a few hours ago.
To the world what exactly this
well,
is.
The Ma'ariv Bridge has been was built in 1976. It was actually supposed to be built for only 3 months. Because they were going to build some kind of underway passage under it for pedestrians, but it just stayed for 40 years. It's basically not even a bridge; it's a flyover.
Right.
But because of construction for the Tel Aviv's first subway, it's called the Red Line. This is just the Red Line that they're going to build. They had to blow it up, and they blew it up today. And it's it's a landmark, and thousands of people gathered outside to see it. And I think we have some footage of it being blown up.
There she blows.
There she blows.
Yeah.
This is a big deal for Israelis.
Why is that?
I'm not totally sure. I'm a bit embarrassed to say as an Israeli myself. I call it a flyover. It's not even a bridge. And architecturally, it's really not a handsome thing as well. It's just it's pretty ugly.
Yeah.
But it's just been there forever.
Yeah.
And of course, it's named after the Ma'ariv, where once the Ma'ariv newspaper used to be. That building right there next to it, the Ma'ariv building, which has also been closed and all its workers have been fired. So an end to the Ma'ariv newspaper and the Ma'ariv Bridge in recent years.
But the funny thing is how you see a crowd gathering. There was like a big cult following. Suddenly, Tel Avivians cared about this bridge and they wanted to see it. Didn't they postpone the demolition because there were too many people?
Too many people, yeah.
It was actually dangerous for them to be so close.
They had a few thousand people today, and then apparently it was like a mix of people who woke up especially for this very early, and a mix of late-night party goers who just ended their parties and said, okay, let's go see the Ma'ariv bridge blow up.
They were still drunk and they thought it'd be fun.
Exactly. An interesting mix of people.
That's a good way to end your night, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Bridge demolition.
Okay. We'll continue. Off to North Korea and South Korea. They traded some fire across the border yesterday, some rocket fire. North Korea said it started this because South Korea has been broadcasting propaganda through loudspeakers on the border. And an hour after the attacks, they sent a radio message to the South saying that, and they warned Seoul that if they did not turn off and dismantle its loudspeakers within 48 hours, it would embark upon military actions.
I saw a push notification on my phone, breaking news that they were ready for war, that they had already set up along the border.
Yeah.
Is that true?
It is, and it's one of the most, it is considered the most tense border in the world. Yeah. And when you have,
even more than Gaza and Israel.
Right, and North Korea is, of course, a nuclear power. So when you're dealing with nukes, you have to be extremely cautious. And it's been very tense there in the past few weeks. And August 4th, not too long ago, 2 South Korean border guards were seriously wounded by landmines that the South said were planted by the North, and North Korea, of course, has denied this. But things are heating up in that zone. We should keep an eye on North Korea and South Korea because, especially in the next 48 hours, to see if they stop broadcasting their propaganda and if North Korea keeps reacting to it.
Yeah, it's actually very scary when you think about their abilities. And
yes, especially with the man Kim Jong-un, who is we don't know much about him, and he seems a little, I don't even know what the word is. But we're going to stick with the North Korea because this is a weird one. Just about 24 hours before this whole thing happened, a band called Laibach from Slovenia came to perform in North Korea, and it is called the first Western pop show to ever perform in North Korea.
Really?
And they performed in front of 1,000 people in this concert hall in Pyongyang, and we have some footage from it. Let's take a look. It's a bit odd. Do those people look like they're having a good time?
No, I mean, you're supposed to get up and dance and feel the music.
I don't know, maybe the music isn't that great, but I don't know, just a bit odd looking right there.
That is really weird.
They seem a bit mesmerized, like what's going on?
They collectively seem to be under a trance, I must say. I mean, anytime I see footage of North Korea, it's just, they better behave kind of thing.
True, maybe they were told to be quiet and not move.
Yeah.
Not to be too Western.
I wonder what the band was thinking. Like, gosh, do they not like us?
Look at that, look at those pictures, it's crazy. They look with their
really
hands
strange.
Across their...
And you also have, look at the mix too. You have old people, you have young people. I mean, it's kind of strange. You would imagine that these are kind of the top brass of Pyongyang to be able to go to an international concert.
Very strange, very strange.
But I'd love to pick their brains, that band, like kind of what it was like to get into the country. So we'll see you a bit later on.
Yes, we will.
Thanks for this, ending in Pyongyang. And coming up next, Women for Peace, a group of Israeli women demand change and have been fasting outside the Israeli Prime Minister's house. We'll take it from there. Welcome back. It's still Friday, August 21st, 2015, and this is still the morning edition on I-24 News. Thank you for staying with us. Now, it's been a relatively quiet year since the last deadly conflict between Israelis and Palestinians took place, costing the lives of thousands of people in Gaza and Israel. However, a group of Israeli women isn't content and is demanding change and has been fasting outside Prime Minister Netanyahu's house in Jerusalem for 7 weeks, calling on him to initiate a political solution to end the cycle of violence. I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev went to meet Women Wage Peace, an Israeli grassroots organization that is hoping to make a change and challenge the discourse. We're joined now in studio by Tal Shalev. Good morning, Tal.
Good morning.
And by Ariella Ginniger from the Women Wage Peace organization. Good morning, Ariella. But first, let's take a look at Tal Shalev's report.
For the past month or so, just around the corner from the Israeli Prime Minister's residence in Jerusalem, a group of women have been stalking Benjamin Netanyahu. Despite the burning summer sun, they've been camping out in a tent and fasting, with one message to the premier: get back to seeking peace.
I have seen so many wars that Israel went through. I'm 68 years old, so you have to understand that what we would like, that no more wars, that will be in peace with our neighbors, with ourselves, with everybody that is around us.
Women Wage Peace, a grassroots group campaigning for a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, was founded on the heels of last summer's Operation Protective Edge. Early in July, they launched a 50-day hunger strike, representing the 50 days of the last Gaza conflict. Playing on Mahatma Gandhi's tradition of nonviolent resistance, the fast, conducted in 25 or 50-hour shifts, aims to pressure the Israeli government to return to negotiations with the Palestinians. The group, which claims it has garnered more than 10,000 supporters from various sectors, distances itself from political parties. Thus, you will not hear the term occupation or laying the blame on any side. They speak by virtue of their status as mothers. Many of them have brothers, husbands, or children in the army and have grown sick of war.
Women, they know to create life. In our system, we don't have this language of killing. We have the language of creation.
The collective fasting is planned to end next week, the same day the operation ended last summer. But unlike Operation Protective Edge, they've not yet dominated the discourse or captured the headlines. Last week, the group did succeed to meet the Israeli Prime Minister's wife, but they have not yet caught Netanyahu's attention. Tal Shalev, I-24 News, Jerusalem.
So thank you, Tal, for this report. So Ariella, we'll begin with you. First of all, I'm seeing this blue ribbon on these women as well that you're wearing here in studio this morning. So what does that mean, and how did this movement start?
Well, the movement started at the end of the Protective Edge last year by women who decided we can't go through this again. It was terrible. We had a terrible experience. And women kept joining who had the same experience. We're wearing this upside down because it looks like a tear. Maybe eventually we'll turn it and it'll be happy.
Yes, let's hope so.
But
you're strategically doing this outside the Prime Minister's house, and so far you haven't had any recognition from him?
Well, no, definitely not. This is just to commemorate the year that has passed since the war, that nothing has happened. We ended the war a year ago. We thought some negotiations are going to start. Nothing happened. And we wanted to commemorate the year that went by and the war. We've been sitting there 50 days. That was the length of the war last year. And women have been fasting either 25 hours or 50 hours. And we're trying to.
So they fast almost in shifts in a way.
Yeah,
they fast.
Women fast in shifts. There are at least 3 to 5 fasters a day. Sometimes we have more than 10. It started smaller and it kept growing. Every evening, I don't know what hour you were there, but every evening there are like tens of people there. We had some evenings with over 100 people. We had a few members of parliament, a few ministers. Not enough. Not
enough. But Tal, you know, why would Netanyahu not even just acknowledge these women right on his doorstep? They're just asking for peace.
Well, I don't think it.
Something.
I have to say, I don't think it's personal. I don't think it really has to do with them asking for, or what they're asking for. Netanyahu is not known to be the most, let's say, socially sensitive person in the world.
Sure.
And he basically passes by in a closed car. He probably doesn't even look outside the window just because that's the person he is. But of course, there was the report that came out from the meeting with the Prime Minister's wife, with Sarah Netanyahu.
Okay, so you did meet with Sarah Netanyahu.
Was that she sent the women, she told the women, you shouldn't be demonstrating here, go demonstrate in Ramallah outside Mahmoud Abbas's Palestinian president's house. So Netanyahu, the Israeli government, and of course the Palestinian leadership as well, are very much engaged in a blame game. And that is a blame game that has been going on for basically more than 20 years. And one of the things that this group is asking is to stop this blame game and actually embrace Netanyahu. It's actually very interesting to speak to them and understand that they're basically, what they want to do is not attack Netanyahu, but embrace Netanyahu and give him confidence to do something, to initiate some kind of move.
Right, because I mean the ultimate message here is just peace. People just want peace. And these women, I mean, I saw in the VTR here that they're all different ages. And do you also have Arab women involved in this?
We have Arab women, we have Arab Israelis, we have Palestinian women. And yes, they also want peace, surprisingly enough. And we're really not against Netanyahu, which is very important. We had Abu Ayyash, who lost his 3 daughters in Gaza in the previous war. And he came, and somebody said to him, do you really believe there is a chance for peace? And he said, the only thing there isn't a chance for is for my daughters to come back. Everything else is possible. And this is what we believe in, and we have to believe in peace. Otherwise, what are we going to do in this country? Go on for the next war? And we raise children. We raise them till the age of 18, and then finished, we move aside and turn them over? No, we have to go on doing something for this country even when they grow up.
So you're really coming to this from a mother's perspective as well?
Personally from a mother's, but also from a grandmother's.
Yeah, absolutely true.
I think two points. One, that there is something to be said also about women's compassion and what motivates women. And one of the claims that comes up many times, not only in Women, Wages, Peace case, but also anything that has to do with Resolution 1325, the UN Security Council resolution that basically says that women should be taking more active roles in any negotiating process and peacemaking process, is that there is something about the whole psychology and actually even ethics of women that can approach problems in a different way than men. And that is one of the points. And the other point I'd like to say is that there is a change of discourse, and if I could give credit to Women, Wage, Peace, they on social media, this fasting, the fasting tent has been very vivid. It's been very, it's been on social media. People pass by. This is one of the most, the junction near the Prime Minister's house is one of the most driven by junctions in Jerusalem. So people drive by, they see them. It is, I have to say, refreshing to see such a to see that there is some discourse about peace, debate about peace, even just using the terms peace in the public discourse, in the Israeli public discourse.
And finally, how can people get involved if they want to get involved in your organization?
Just get into the internet, write Women, Wage, Peace. You can be part of it. You can be more active, less active. There's every possibility. And last week, Herzog went to see Muhammad Abbas, and he spoke our words. It was really nice to hear it from somebody else. So I don't know if it's only because he visited our tent, but those are our words. And part of it is also to bring peace, the word peace, back to the agenda. When the movement was founded, there was a lot of discussion whether to put the word peace in the name of the movement because it's so scary. It's so connected with the left wing, and it's really not. I mean, peace is total Israel. We all want peace. The rights, the left wing. So we can put it back on the agenda, the word peace.
Well, it's a great message, and we do wish you all the best of luck. Thank you so much, Ariella, for being here. And Tal, thank you so much for that report.
Okay.
And now let's say hello and good morning again to Ami Kaufman, who is here today for the Viral Spiral. That is the web review. Welcome back, Ami.
Thank you very much for having me back.
Yeah.
We're going to start with, I guess it's kind of like every parent's nightmare. Rosie O'Donnell's daughter was missing for a week. Has been on the news a while. And she was found with a person that she met on Tinder who was an alleged heroin dealer.
That is every parent's nightmare. I can't think of a worse scenario.
Yeah, I'm the father of 2 young girls, and they're probably going to be starting using phones pretty soon. But if it's up to me, it'll be a few years.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
and I'll be checking that phone very closely.
And no smartphones.
Just no smartphones, no Tinder, no nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chelsea she's mentally ill, and she hasn't been taking her medication apparently, and that's when she ran away from home, and she was missing for a week, and she was staying with this guy, 25-year-old alleged heroin dealer. And apparently she's very frightened. Rosie O'Donnell is very frightened and very concerned for her
I remember this was a very strange story, the whole disappearance, but thankfully she was found alive and she's
healthy and
back home.
And hopefully taking her meds again, too, so that won't happen again.
Yes.
This week, Bill Clinton celebrated his 69th birthday. Actually, it was on Tuesday, and yesterday we learned that he pretty much did it all by himself. I mean, Hillary's on the campaign trail. She was in Iowa, and their daughter Chelsea is in Sardinia, Italy, with her husband Mark Mizvinsky. But he
had other women who were celebrating with him.
Now.
You say the things that we think but wouldn't say. Thank you.
You know, it's funny. It's actually funny you raised that, Tal, because Hillary took to the web and posted a photo on Instagram. I said we have that picture.
It's a throwback photo.
It's a throwback photo where she says,
"Ladies, he's mine."
Yeah. Well, the caption is, "After all these years, nobody makes me laugh like Bill Clinton." And look at that gaze. I guess that's somewhere in the 1970s.
Right? Then why did you have to post a photo of her laughing in the 70s if he still makes her laugh after all those years? Then she should post a photo of him making her laugh now.
Yeah, side to side.
At the same restaurant, right? When they should be eating together.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the restaurant. At least Bon Jovi was there. It's Bon Jovi's restaurant.
Oh, okay.
So Bon Jovi was sitting at the table.
Okay. I hope she makes it to the 70th.
Bill and Bond.
70th.
Yeah. Why, you think something will happen? Or
no, I hope she makes it. That you, like, you know, that you'll find the time.
I thought you said that he was like ill or something. Something was going to happen. God forbid. Okay. Sticking with presidential stuff. Sure. There are 17 Republican candidates, but there's also people that file their names to run for president just to make fun of other stuff. And there's this guy called These Nuts, which is actually named after a song from Dr. Dre song from his 1992 album, a guy called These Nuts. But what's interesting, as we can see from this headline, is that in North Carolina voters, he is polling at 9%.
What?
9% of people want to vote for These Nuts.
Unmasked this 15-year-old.
He's a 15-year-old guy. By the way, he's polling 8% in Minnesota and 7% in Iowa.
That's higher than most of the candidates.
That's higher than a lot of people. Like, he's higher than Huckabee and Rick Perry and Jindal and all those other people.
That's
it's a 15-year-old called. His name is Brady Olson. He's from southern Iowa, rural Iowa, on a farm. I guess he has a lot of time to, after he's milking the cows, to do some stuff on the web. And he filed the papers to the FEC and said, "Yeah, I'm running for president."
But don't you have to be at least 18 to do that? I would assume.
That I'm not sure about. That's a good question. But maybe there's a loophole there that he found that they'll have to.
Well, I must say his name is not about almonds. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's right. It's the song. Mind, Brady. The song is very sexually explicit, shall we say? BBC put out a pretty funny video yesterday. One of their presenters, called Mark Carwardin, was in this video. He is very frustrated. He's talking about how he wants to try to find these blue whales. And he says, "You can't find blue whales. They're always under the water. You can never see them." Let's see what happens when they finally show it.
It just makes it so challenging, and it's quite exciting in one way. It's very frustrating in another, that they're here, but you just jolly well can't find them. Oh, look! There is one. Actually, that was a lot easier than I was expecting. There's a whale right.
It's like the whale was listening.
Yeah, he had like perfect comedic timing. That was like right after he ended his sentence. I can't find anything. There goes the spout of water.
A vacation video. I mean, he's not dressed to present on BBC. This was just
one of those BBC
footage.
nature videos, trying to find the blue whale or whatever.
Yeah, I love all these whale videos, by the way. I mean, if you look on YouTube, there are some really, really scary ones almost, how they just emerge in groups around boats. And
really?
Recommend that this weekend.
I've never seen this stuff. Okay. Yeah. I'll look for it.
do that.
Madame Tussauds in Las Vegas is going to have to fix the Nicki Minaj wax figure, because they put the Nicki Minaj, you can see, they put her as it was in her Anaconda video on 4. And as we can see in some of these tweets, people have been taking some very odd shots, with selfies and stuff.
Yeah. It's pretty disgusting.
Licking her buttocks and doing other. I'm posting, by the way, the relatively mild ones. There have been some really disgusting pictures on the web with this thing. Putting their hands on it. So,
I wonder what she thinks about it. I'd like to hear her chime in on that.
She did chime in. She's been very surprised about it. She's chimed in on Twitter. She actually replies to those Twitter posts, and she seems kind of angry about it. She puts these sad face emojis after people do this stuff. But other people are saying
that's a mature response.
Yeah. Other people are saying she's kind of asked for it, but I don't think she's asking for it. With all due respect.
Well, people are going to get away with what they can and post pictures and be funny about it, but it's totally inappropriate, and I think they should redo it. Her standing up.
Right.
With more clothes on.
Yeah. Well, maybe dignified. She should have some more clothes on to begin with.
There you go. That's one of the arguments. That's one of the arguments right there.
Yeah.
There's an Uber driver also in Las Vegas.
Oh, I think we do have to end. I'm sorry about
we don't
that.
Have time.
We just got so wrapped up in Nicki Minaj. Okay, well, thank you, Ami. Coming up next, we leave you with the best of this week's Morning Edition. The race for the British Labour Party's leadership is heating up, and we take a look at its controversial front and other things. So do stay tuned and have a great weekend.